Sales is such a big subject. There's only one place to begin, and that's at the beginning. The word prospect is a verb and a noun. But first comes the verb. And you're already doing it. What's happening good, everybody? Eli's dad back again as we continue the art of persuasion in sales on Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. You're instructed to turn on your monitors so that you may listen to what's happening in the next room as I mentor my son. Eli, as a sales trainer, I've known many people that give a superb presentation. The number one thing in sales is not how well you present. The number one thing is the number of presentations that you make. Like anything else on the success highway, the key to reaching your destination is to begin with the end result and work backwards in chunks. For this reason, the number one question that you must continually ask yourself is, how can I get in front of more qualified prospects? That is the number one objective. Why is that the case, Eli? Because there's three types of prospects. The first one is one that will never buy from you no matter what. I refer to that one as not even if you were the second coming. Then there's the one that has a need that fits your product or service so perfectly that they will buy from you no matter what. I call that one a dog with a note, because if you would have scribbled down in a note, put it in the dog's collar and sent it into the client's house, the client would read the note, be so excited, sign the contract, and send the dog back on its way with a check made out to your company. And the third type of client is the one that's on the fence. That's the one that needs to be persuaded, convinced, or, to use sales talk, closed. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's suppose that you are the best closer of all times. If you don't get in front of anybody, there's nobody to close. Am I right on that? That does make sense, doesn't it? So clearly, step one is to know how to prospect to enable you to get in front of a potential buyer. I've got some good news for you though, Eli. You're already doing it. Let me give you some examples. Now, you're on the basketball team at school. You have one game per week, and that game takes about an hour or so to play in real time. Now, how many hours a week do you practice? How many sprints do you run? How many practice foul shots do you take? How many hours do you practice on your own when it's not the basketball season? Why do you do that? Because when it is game time, you want to be ready. There will be no game time if you're not skilled enough to make the team. You're continually prospecting for the skills you need to become a better player. The time expenditure that you invest is tremendous when you compare it with the actual game time. Here's a different example. As a teenager, you're now experiencing the lure of the female of the species. If your aim is to make friends with some young ladies, is it better to go to a professional wrestling event or to the school dance? Now, obviously, they both have their appeal. You will, however, have much better results if you prospect for a prospect at the school dance. Not only that, but your opening line is already there for you. How about, would you like to dance? You see, my boy, there are three things that are all the same if you stop and think about it. And they are socializing, sports, and sales. All three have an approach, a warm-up, a presentation, and a close. And we will detail these three elements at a later date. But for now, we're focusing on prospecting for qualified prospects in an arena where they are plentiful. And toward this end, What you're attempting to sell will determine the location and the substance of your prospecting methods. That's why you get all spiffed up and put on your cool clothes when you go to the dance. It's part of the sell. From there, your sparkling personality is going to have to serve you. Hey, bro, that is your sales presentation. Isn't that true? Now let's talk some prospecting. As we stated in our previous video entry on marketing, big companies seek to expose their products and create familiarity. Coke, Pepsi, Heinz Ketchup, insurance companies, and on and on and on. Repetition means retention, which means familiarity, which breeds credibility. So when you see their products in the store, you're more apt to purchase something that you've seen before. On the other hand, Eli, if you act like a fool in school and you ask a young lady to dance, don't be surprised if you get turned down. Familiarity can also breed contempt. Now, like most teenagers, myself and my contemporaries included, the main sales pitch is and was, how cool are you? Believe it or not, Eli, all of the teachers and the parents know what it's like to try and be cool. So why is being cool so important? Because the young lady that you're trying to attract seeks to have a cool companion. She's trying to solve the problem of companionship with somebody cool. Now, keep in mind that different people cling to different definitions of the same word. To one young lady, it might mean a wholesome, funny, personable boy, like I was and still am. To another, cool might mean a bad boy. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm referring to. To still another, it might mean a superior athlete or a very smart boy or a very tough boy. What is cool about a product or service that is a problem solver varies from individual to individual. Therefore, what you're seeking to do when you prospect for a qualified prospect is to identify a certain need or desire that you can provide that will solve a specific problem. Now, what does it mean when I say a quote-unquote qualified prospect? Well, let me give you an example. You, Eli, currently age 14, may admire and covet a particular car that you would like to own. You want the car, but are not qualified to purchase it because of financing, age, no driver's license, no insurance, and because I said so, that's why. By the way, folks, didn't you hate it when your parents justified something with, because I said so, that's why? Me too. Anyway, when you're prospecting, you will be the most productive when you aim your arrows at a particular bullseye. Let me give you an example. When I was in the insurance business and a door knocker, I would always look for apartment complexes that were higher end. Why? Because first of all, knocking from door to door, there was very little space. It took 2 seconds to go one door to the next door to the next door. And second, because the tenants usually had some extra money. They were working, they had a checking account, which was a necessary requirement for automatic monthly deduction, and because they would have a dream that required saving money that my product could help solve. What were their dreams? Well, a single guy might want to buy an expensive car. A young married couple might want to buy a home or save for a college education for their children. Or an older prospect might want to save additional money for retirement. Now, the modus operandi was to get the prospect to tell me their dreams, and my job was to show them how to do it. But I was literally selling them back their own dreams. Everybody wants to save for something, and these people would qualify. Now, they didn't have big money to invest, but they could typically afford between $10 and $25 per week without breathing hard. That's why we called our client Joey Lunch Bucket, someone that could afford $10 to $25 per week. share the vision, and sell the dream. They were qualified prospects because they had a need for my product, they typically had a checking account, and they could afford to buy. Now, when I worked with a multi-level marketing company, I'm giving you a different scenario here, the object was to sell the product and recruit the individual at the same time to become part of my sales team. I would profit with not only a commission from my sale, but also when they became part of the team and made a sale, I would receive an override commission. So how do you prospect for that? Well, the company had produced a short but excellent tape recording, and they put it on CD as well, that beautifully explained the virtue of the product and the potential rewards connected with selling the product. It was a second job opportunity that could produce a sizable additional income while providing a necessary service that most people needed. Now, what were the components of the approach? Well, first, like most people, they have the fear of selling. Second, the product fulfilled a strongly desired need. Third, there was additional income to be had when you sold the product directly or when one of the people that you had recruited to your team sold the product. And you would receive overrides if they recruited somebody, and that override went 7 layers deep. So if that person recruited somebody, you still got an override. Now, the approach couldn't have been simpler. Quote, if I could show you how to earn an extra $100 to $500 a month in your spare time, would you listen to an 11-minute CD while you're driving someplace? Unquote. Now, what could be simpler than that? To be candid, Eli, the number of people that would ultimately be interested was a small percentage, but so what? In multi-level marketing, a prospect asks themselves 3 questions. Can I do this? Do I want to do this? And is it worth it for me to do this? If my prospect liked the product and wanted to join the team to make extra income for themselves, they didn't have to worry about not having sales skills. Why? Because anybody can hand out a tape or a CD. It was the recording that did the selling. They would say to themselves, I can do that. Now, who would I target to prospect? That waitress or waiter that aggressively provided good service to receive a nicer tip. That hourly salesperson in the clothing store that was extremely outgoing. A teacher, a fireman, a policeman. Honestly, if I thought there was even a 1% chance for interest, I'd hand out a tape or a CD. Remember, anybody can hand out a tape. It was easy. Habits are easy to do and easy not to do. It would take all of about 10 seconds to hand out a tape. Now, one time I handed out a tape to an individual and he didn't listen to it, but his friend saw the tape, listened to it, and called me. You never know what's going to happen until you try. Now, those are some examples of prospecting and the logic that leads to a prospecting strategy. Let me state something to you here and now, Eli. The absolute number one way to prospect is to get referrals. Now, that subject deserves and receives its own video later on. The number one salesperson in virtually all organizations is the person that makes the most presentations in front of the most qualified prospects. Period. At this time, I'd like to sell you on the concept of joining us for our next video. The subject will be socializing, sports, and sales. How all 3 are the same. Please be sure to subscribe, make suggestions, ask questions, and offer critiques. And our thought for the day is this. It's from Ben Friedman. Quote, prospecting. Find the man with the problem. Unquote. And because We never end our meetings on a philosophical note. You better get out there and prospect and charge. I'm Eli's dad.